Welcome to the University of Findlay's Arts and Culture Show. I'm Sharinda Welton, your host, and we are very excited to have a very special guest on set with us today, Miss Karith Foster. Welcome, Karith.
Thank you, Sharinda. Glad to be here.
Well, it's exciting to have you here. You know, oftentimes this show will cover local arts and culture, but today we have the honor of interviewing a very famous woman who wears many different hats. I like to call her a superhuman.
I'm glad you think I am.
I know you are, and the people that travel in your world, they know you are. Karith is a stand-up comedian, and she is also an author, producer, wife, mom, and a founder of a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
So we are really excited to get to know Miss Karith Foster. So let's start.
I'm exhausted just hearing about all the stuff I do.
Yes. And you're here on campus for a very special reason.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But let's build up to that because it was other things that you were doing in life that inspired what you're here on campus to do with us. Yes. So let's start with comedy. Mm-hmm. And I want to know, how did you get started in stand-up comedy? What inspired you? What lit that fire? Because not everybody can do comedy.
Well, it's not for everyone.
That's true.
And the people who go into it are a little bit off, which I can say as one of those people. I like to say that, I didn't find comedy, comedy found me. I always loved watching it when I was younger. I would stay up late to sneak in and get the Tonight Show, and I admired comedians so much, but never in a million years did I think it was going to be something on my path. I actually went to school for journalism. I was a double major initially, theater and journalism.
And where did you go?
I went to Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri, which is actually the second oldest women's college in the country.
Awesome.
So I actually left with my degree in journalism and pursued that. And actually, it took me to New York City to work on The View, because I thought, who better to learn about TV and journalism than Barbara Walters?
Of course.
And I got there, and it was a really amazing. I dove into the world of network television, and I got a lot out of it. But at one point, it did kind of become like a Devil Wears Prada. A million girls would kill for this job. Why are you unhappy? Mm-hmm. And it's because, as enlightening as it was, I wasn't pursuing what my soul and my heart really wanted, which was to be on the other side of the camera, but also to be making a difference. And when I found stand-up, which I did while I was in New York, I found that to be the way that it was the vehicle that I could use to do what I'd wanted to do in journalism, which was be a beacon of light and truth, but I could also have fun, and I could make people think, thank goodness, that has just been a through thread for everything else that I've done in my life.
That is so cool. And as a comedian, people hear New York City, they hear that you found your light through comedy, but anyone that follows stand-up comedy is going to recognize the name Caroline's. That is the creme de la creme. It is where you want to go and where you want to get to as a comedian in New York City. It's right down in Times Square. I walk by there every year and kind of drool, wishing I could be in there doing stand-up comedy. It's just one of those really cool places. And you haven't been there just once. You fly into New York on a regular basis to be a guest comedian at Caroline's.
I've been working at Caroline's for some time, and I love Caroline Hirsch. I love that it's a woman who has one of the longest standing comedy clubs in New York City. That's a rarity. Actually, I think it's the only woman-owned comedy club right now in New York City. Actually, another couple just opened, but Caroline she's amazing.
She's
amazing.
The history. She's
absolutely
the mainstay there.
Absolutely. And Caroline's is actually where I shot my second CD. Recorded it. Bless your heart, you're special, which is a saying we have in Texas. That's not always a compliment.
Yes.
But people from the South understand that. It's actually kind of a nice way of cussing somebody out. But I feel so fortunate to have started in New York because I think if I started anywhere else, I probably would have been intimidated. It's one of those ignorance is bliss. Like, I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I like doing it. And I did it while I worked regular gigs. I mean, I worked at The View. I ended up working at Estee Lauder for quite some time because my mom's like, please get health insurance. Please get health insurance. So I did that. And, even while I was there, I was supported. Fortunately, I've been supported almost my entire career. I have angels, guardian, and earthbound throughout my life, and I'm so fortunate.
So continuing on your journey in New York City with comedy, another really awesome opportunity you've had has been with the United Nations.
Yes.
Many times people are going to go, how does the United Nations and comedy come
How do they
together?
go together?
Yeah, but it's not just you as a comedian, but historically you were the first African American or Black woman to perform, and I'm not sure, how would you prefer to be acknowledged?
Well, I love that you brought that up. I'm okay with Black, although what's interesting is the dress I'm wearing is Black, and I'm not. So I'm actually brown. African American, again, these are labels that we give each other, which is unfortunate that we are in a world where we still do that. But I can't trace right now my family back to Africa. I haven't done a 23andMe, so I couldn't even tell you where I'm from in Africa if that is actually where my people are from. Although technically, I guess all of us really go back to Africa. So you're an African American, Sharinda, if you want to think about it that way.
I think I might be, yeah.
But no, I'm fine with Black. I do hope that we can get to a place where we don't have to use color to define people. And I mean, I get where that comes from. It's if you can divide people, you can pit them against each other, which is exactly why I use my comedy to bring people together, because those are all surface things that we think separate us. Stuff that doesn't matter when we see, unfortunate incidents like the mass shootings we've been having, the horrible, weather issues, people. That's when you see our humanity really come out. And I'm hoping that with the work that I do, it doesn't take a tragedy or a natural disaster to have that be in that mental place on a regular basis. But yes, I was one of the first people to do stand-up at the United Nations, which, I mean, I don't know how you don't bring comedy into everything, because quite frankly, I think humor is an incredibly powerful tool. And educators should use it on a regular basis, because studies have shown that when you can laugh, you are in a different mental state, you retain more, it's more enjoyable, and it raises your endorphins. There's nothing wrong with laughter, which is why it's so frustrating for me that it seems to be, especially on a lot of college campuses, under fire. Humor, free speech, all of those things that help us grow to become better people, so we can see and understand another way of thinking and looking at things. It should. I don't know why it's being attacked right now. So.
And I'm glad that you're bringing that up, because as a comedian, you've traveled the United Nations, you've been to Caroline's, but you now have a really special opportunity to join ventures with a couple other pretty famous gentlemen in comedy to talk about this, correct?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It just happened the other day. I was in a movie, a documentary called Can We Take a Joke, which was released in 2016. I was talking about humor, comedy, and outreach culture on college campuses. And through that, Adam Carolla, who's a famous, he has a famous podcast. He, has done many movies and radio and TV. He is producing a film with Dennis Prager called No Safe Spaces. And Tim Allen is going to be part of it. He's going to be on the panel, and I was just asked to join to talk about it.
Awesome.
And while I understand people's sensitivity and wanting to be heard, I think that everybody should be heard. Because if you stop letting people speak, if you stop hearing the other side, you're just hearing one way of looking at things, and you're hurting yourself. You're not allowing yourself to grow and to be exposed. And that doesn't mean you have to change your mind. That may strengthen your convictions. But everybody should have that opportunity. And so long as you're not physically harming someone else, you're not taking away from someone, then it's called freedom of speech. We need it. We need it for a reason.
For sure. And so then let's segue that into a really amazing program that you have created, and it's called Inversity. What is Inversity? What is that definition?
Sure. The program is actually called Stereotyped 101. And the terminology that I've kind of made up, coined, if you will, is called Inversity. Because Stereotype 101 is a diversity and inclusion program. But so much like the words liberal and feminism, the word diversity has been hijacked. And so people automatically think, it's just about marginalized groups. And it's not, because if that's the focus, then A, that makes a certain group of people victims, and that condemns another set of people. And that's not how you bring people together. If you really want people to be able to have an open conversation, have an open dialogue, come together in understanding that we have more in common than we don't, then you can't, make diversity a bad thing. And true diversity is inclusive of everyone. It's, hearing people who have different political views than you, including people who are different religions, who have different sexual orientations and identities. And that's what Inversity is really about. It's about, what do we have in common? Let's be more inclusive. And also introspection, which I really think is what this all boils down to. Understanding your value, your worth, your connection to humanity. Because if you can see that in yourself, then you can see it in someone else. And it feels like so often, especially, given the political climate of the past, almost decade really, we've lost touch with our humanity. We've lost touch with the fact that we are all wanting the same things. We want love, we want respect, and we want to be included. And to pit people against one another because you may have voted differently than I did, or you may practice another religion than I do. That's absurd. That's asinine.
Well, and even individuals who may walk differently, or talk differently.
Yes.
Yes.
It's all of it, exactly. So at the core of it, we are human beings, and I think at the core of it, we're really good people. We just need to be reminded. So I don't feel like I'm starting this new wave of thinking. I just think we need to be reminded that, this is where we come from and this is what we can do when we work together, when we don't separate ourselves based on the surface stuff.
And I appreciate that you say that you're an ambassador for reminding, but I also think that, and I'm giving you the word ambassador, I know you did not say that, but I see you as an ambassador and you're using your talents to remind, but I also see you as an individual who is taking the opportunity to use your talents as a performer to not only remind, but also give people permission. Because something that happens a lot on campuses and within communities, we forget that people are told one thing over and over, and so therefore they believe it. But having the opportunity to go to college, having the opportunity to maybe move away from home and work someplace different gives different perspectives. And so with that, sometimes we need to be given that permission to move forward and to take chances and to try new things. And so I see you as an individual that through your writings and your performance, as well as what you have so passionately put together for college campuses, as well as workplaces, an opportunity to give permission, because some people are looking for permission.
Absolutely.
So that they can look inward and determine who they are, what they are, and how they're going to give back to society. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
And one of the ways that you're doing that is through your foundation. And I would love to hear a little bit about that and how that came to fruition.
Absolutely. Well, I jokingly say that the Foster Russell Family Foundation is my third child because it has been quite an experience. It's been a birthing experience. Bringing life to an organization that will hopefully help spread the ideas we were just talking about, the ideas of free speech and people being able to ask questions without feeling bad, to share their experiences without being painted a certain way. But it's also about addressing issues of social justice and inclusion, bringing people together, because I feel like for so long, we have been pitted against one another. It's almost like, united we stand, well, divided we fail. And that's what's happening if we don't jump on it. So to be able to have the opportunity to start a nonprofit organization, to be able to take programming to schools and universities, and that's, that's not our end game goal. Yes, that's part of it, but it has to start sooner. I'm working on a children's book, and would like to, get some K through 12 programming really set up, because It starts as soon as you can start interacting and socializing. And we need a new way to go about it, so that, you know, I don't have to go into a school and say, hey, look, we're really all the same. Like, people come in with that mindset already. I have small children, and I know, and I see, you know, when they are with other children, there's not hate in their hearts. They don't think of other people as different, the way we've become socialized. And it's a big task to take on. I mean, I'm not going to change the way the media works necessarily. And, you know, people are influenced by their families for sure. But the earlier you can start, I think the greater an opportunity you have to make an impact on the world. And that's my goal.
And your world's not just the United States.
No.
You've had the opportunity to travel abroad quite a bit. And with that, I'm sure that has also helped project your vision.
Oh, without question.
So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about maybe one of your favorite locations that you've toured, and also, what did you learn from it? Did it energize you because you were like, yes, other people, they don't speak the same language as me, they don't look the way I do, but they have the same philosophy, and we sense that with the way we share and the way we are communicating, maybe body language, or something that was your reminder as you've traveled?
Sure. Well, when I was in school, I studied abroad in England. I actually studied at Oxford University. And that was the first time in my life I wasn't Black, I wasn't African American, I was Karith, and I was American. And it was like this weight had been lifted off. And I remember, I mean, I just felt so at home and so comfortable there. And well, listen, every place has issues, okay? I'm not going to say there's a utopia. And in England, it's less about racism, more about classism. You know, what family were you lucky enough to be born into, essentially. But traveling around Europe, meeting different people from all over the world, and I've done stand-up actually in Rotterdam in Holland, on a TV show where the host was Surinamese, which is a Dutch colony, and I was able to just gain a global perspective, even just watching the news in another country. You know, they cover so much more than we do here. And
in what ways?
In the sense that it's global. They look at what is happening around the world. I mean, you turn on the local news here, you find out, you know, what's happening in your community, which is still, you know,
it's important.
It's important, of course. But our focus, it seems to be very American-centric. And we've got a lot going on. You know, we have our lives, and people are just trying to make ends meet, and now dealing with, you know, health care, and, you know, people are sick, and they've got growing children. It's a lot. We get kind of consumed. And I understand how that can become your world and your bubble. I get it. But I will say this, in other countries, they do have more of a global perspective. Like, they know more about what's happening in America than sometimes we do. My husband is actually from another country, and he came here knowing a lot more than I did about his home country. So, you know, but one of the things, you know, that I know, and I know this to be true from having friends who are international, to traveling abroad, is there are things that are universal. And even when you don't speak a language, a smile, a gesture, laughter, you know, those are universal, and those can connect us. And, you know, it's love. I mean, it's love. I don't mean to sound pie in the sky, but it's love that helps us connect with one another and take care of each other and make the world go round.
And did you find that when you do your stand-up other places, sometimes our international students, when we have professional comedians come in, they get confused with some of the slang, with some of the terminology, with some of the body motions, and so they don't know if it's funny or if it's literal, because they're literally trying to learn the language and our body language. So when you've had the opportunity to tour in other locations, have you ever had anyone come up to you afterwards and say, explain this to me, or they took it literally when it was part of the joke? And
Well, sometimes that happens here.
Really?
You know, different parts of the country.
Yeah.
I have a joke that I will not be telling on air right now, but let's just say I reference a duvet, and that's a very East Coast, terminology. And then I notice when I do that on the East Coast, it's fine, but I'll say that somewhere, you know, maybe in the South or the Midwest, and I'm like bedspread, you know. So it's just a matter of, you know, sometimes linguistics are different. And you know, that can happen internationally. That can happen here in America. So But you do your best, I think, to be have as much universal appeal as possible.
Well, and I love the fact that we're talking about how we're giving people permission and that we have similarities. And I love that similarity, you've seen it here in the U.S. as well as internationally.
Absolutely.
It's part of figuring it out.
But ultimately, people want to laugh.
Yeah.
And they want to feel good.
Yeah.
And, I knew that I was doing the right thing when I was part of a show several years ago. It was an all-female lineup, and there was actually at a theater, so there wasn't alcohol or anything being served. It was just people out to have a good time. And after the show, a woman came up to myself and 3 of the other comedians who were on the show. And, we were used to people going, oh, it was great, it was a great show. But this woman came up and she said, my son was killed 6 months ago.
Oh.
And we're just like, and she goes, this is the first time I've laughed since. And she thanked us and she hugged us. And that was better than any kind of payment I could have ever gotten because we gave her the gift of feeling better, of healing. And that's why comedy is important. That's why the work that I'm doing is important. It's not just about the message, it's about the healing that comes with the message. So I'm just so lucky that I was anointed by the universe to be able to do this.
Well, and we are very blessed that we have had the opportunity to get to know you. And I think we met about a year ago.
We did.
At a conference. And when we met, it was like, oh, we're going to be friends forever.
Instantly.
Yeah. But that's a blessing when we can make that connection and then we get to share each other's worlds. And so it's been an amazing honor to have you here on our campus visiting, having the opportunity to invest in our students and to continue to strengthen your flame. And we're excited to see you in the upcoming projects that you have going on as Superhuman.
I'm going to get my cape.
Yeah.
Next time I'll have a cape and a uniform.
Perfect. But thank you. And, one other thing I just want to touch on, because this is really special to me. Your Facebook page, you use that as a continual opportunity to project positivity. And I really appreciate that. But one of the things that you posted not long ago, because you are on the road all of the time, you had a very special birthday coming up in your family, and it was with your children, and I think you were on the East Coast, and you needed to take a very, very early flight home so that you could get there in time to give them the birthday party they wanted. And you were there, and they didn't have to make the sacrifice, and it was their party, their day, you were there. And that just meant so much to me, because people ask on a regular basis of professionals, how do you do it all? And you do it with some sacrifice, you do it with some commitment, and you do it with a smile on your face. And that just warmed my heart when I got to see those pictures. And the location they wanted, you were like, I'm not so sure about this, but it turned out great for the moms and the pops and the family, the grown-ups too. So that was really special. And so thank you for not only making the commitment to the people that you're going to see in your audiences, but you live your life and you give that message back to your children too, and to your husband.
I am doing the best I can. I really am. And I want people to. One thing I do want to state, because you've been very complimentary, and I do appreciate that. I could not do this without the support of my husband. I could not do this without the support of my parents. And my children, fortunately, are very, not just well behaved, but they go with the flow. And I've tried to instill that in them as well. And, for people who say, you can't have everything, you can. You may not have it all at the same time, okay? And that's an important thing to understand.
Yeah. And it takes discipline, and it takes commitment.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
And organization, the
if
best
you
you
plan
can.
it out, exactly. If you plan it out, you put it out there. I mean, I'm one of those people. I believe in manifesting. I believe in making something happen and work, and also going with the flow. If something doesn't happen right then and there, there's probably a reason for it. And it's like
it'll
that
come
song,
back around.
That song with Garth Brooks, thank God for unanswered prayers. Sometimes that's the case. Everything for a reason. Even the bad stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
But I thank you for your compliments.
You are very welcome.
I accept them. Thank you.
You are very welcome. And we thank you for tuning in for another episode of University of Findlay's Arts and Culture. We look forward to seeing you the next time.